Will it help the world to take down statues, change the names of buildings and products and cities, and erase everything we knew or did in the past and just create a blank slate for the future? Will that help things? Hi, Alex McFarland here, and welcome to the T&G webcast. We're going to answer a question today about what has been called cancel culture. And I know, like myself, you're probably concerned about all the things going on in the news. I was just listening to the Director of Homeland Security talking about the 4th of July holiday, and he said there's extra security around monuments all of the July 4th weekend because of, listen, he used these two words, lawlessness and anarchy. All right, I want to read a question here from a viewer, Steve Hoyle in Charlotte, North Carolina. Steve, thanks for sending this in. And then we are going to talk a little bit about monuments, statues, and the cancel culture. Let me read this question. It says, Alex, what is your take on the removal of statues and those calling for the removal of building names, military base names, etc.? I'd like to hear your take on this. Well, thanks, Steve. And let's talk about this a little bit, because in recent weeks, think about it, in the United States of America, in addition to some of the Confederate statues that, and listen, another subject for another day, Mississippi removing the Confederate flag from its flag, I have no problem with that. That's another story. I'll explain my take on the Confederacy at another day. But we witnessed the tearing down of a George Washington statue, the defacing of the Lincoln Memorial and monuments to Lincoln. Let me quote a couple of books here. One of my favorite writers is Paul Johnson. He wrote A History of the American People. He also wrote a very famous, very revered work, A History of the Jewish People. And in his book, A History of the American People, Paul Johnson talks about the fact that America has offered opportunity, the potential for the creation of wealth, more than any other nation in history. And in spite of our flawed, view on slavery at the beginning, by the 29th year of our existence, think about this, by 1803, the 29th year of our existence, leaders like Thomas Jefferson were refusing to negotiate with countries like France unless they stopped their slave trade. And it took to the middle of the 19th century for us to fight the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln emancipating the slaves, and Johnson documents how in the scheme of world history and nations, we got the slavery issue arrested remarkably quickly. Now, here, listen to this quote, if you would. This is amazing. Because of the liberal elites and academics that want this country to go from being a capitalist-driven economy to a socialist nation of servitude. Listen to this. Johnson says that so many of the elites, this quote is amazing. He said, the educated elite had guided, if not exactly run, the United States, and they feel their influence is being eroded by the sheer quantity of money now sloshing around in the bowels of America's great ship of state. And he says there's, quote, an anti-bigness emotion. Now, what does he mean by that? Johnson, a respected historian, notes that the removal of statues and really the erasure of our history is a tool being used by the elites that want to run the country and control you and me. And so what they're doing is riling up masses of people to make the masses think they're being cheated or misused. And so they're throwing around the race card and getting people to do their bidding by undermining the stability of the country so that a small group of wealthy elites can control the country. Now, this is even happening in Britain. Quickly, let me share another book, How Churchill Saved Civilization, by a historian named John Hart. And they're tearing down statues of Churchill. And in London, just a few days ago, they were tearing down a statue of Winston Churchill, Britain's most famous prime minister, and the person tearing it down didn't even know who it was. And this historian says to call Churchill a racist is, quote, patently absurd. In fact, he fought fascism, Nazism, eugenics, and racism. Now, here's my point, folks. we've got to have some sanity here, because we've all said things that offended people. If we're going to cancel culture, we're going to have to cancel all of us, because all of us have said and done things that might have offended somebody or hurt the feelings of another person. Folks, hit the pause button. Put the brakes on it. Be informed. As we pull down monuments, ultimately we're going to pull the roof of our house down on ourselves, and we can't let that happen. Hey, let me ask you to do a favor. Share publicly. If you share publicly, you're entered to win a book. We give away a book every Friday. The book we're giving away now is my book, The God You Thought You Knew, Exposing 10 Common Myths About Christianity. I interviewed a lot of millennials, more than 300. We talk about questions, objections, and if you share publicly, you are entered to win, and I'd love to send you this book. I want to say thanks for watching. Hey, here's my closing tagline now. Pray for America. Please stand for truth, be encouraged, because what is right will win in the end. Pray for America, and please know that I'm grateful for you watching the TNG webcast.